If you've ever worked in a big company, you definitely know the PMO, the project management office. And let's be honest, for years, the reputation has been, well, paperwork. You think of the PMO as this bureaucracy, the people demanding status reports, checking boxes, and maybe, just maybe, slowing things down. Okay, let's unpack this. Because our source material today, which looks at where we are in 2025, shows that this view of the technology PMO is completely, totally obsolete. If that's what you're still seeing, you are missing one of the biggest strategic shifts happening in business right now.
That is the absolute heart of it. The
Mhm.
PMO is no longer just this, internal administrative function. The shift is huge.
Mhm.
It's a complete pivot toward things you can actually measure, toward real business outcomes. It's not about checking boxes anymore. It's about making sure the right things get built and
My
get built well.
So our mission for this deep dive is to basically give you the shortcut to understanding all of this. We're going to distill the 6 key strategic ways the modern technology PMO is adding massive value.
Exactly how it's become this accelerator for business transformation and tech innovation.
I find this so fascinating because it's really repositioning the PMO from a cost center to, frankly, a power center. Our sources are really explicit here. They call the modern PMO a strategic partner, a value accelerator, and a transformation enabler,
They do.
which means the job description really starts with strategy now, not oversight.
And that's the key. If you're going to accelerate value, you have to be pointed in the right direction to begin with. That brings us straight to the first and maybe most important value add, strategic alignment with business goals.
Okay, so what does that actually mean?
It means the PMO is the connective tissue. Their job is making sure every single tech initiative, every dollar spent is laser focused on what the organization actually cares about. What do customers need? What are the big company priorities? And critically, what's the ROI we expect?
ROI, meaning the actual return on investment that was promised when the project got its funding.
The measurable return.
Precisely. That focus on ROI up front is huge. It forces every project to think like a business. But what happens if the PMO finds a project that isn't aligned? Do they actually have the power to stop it?
They have to. I mean, they absolutely must have that authority. The strategic PMO usually reports pretty high up, sometimes to the CIO or COO for exactly that reason. They're the guardian of the investment. So if a project has gone off the rails and that expected return is just gone, the PMO's job is to trigger that really hard conversation.
About redirecting funds or even killing the project entirely.
Exactly. Their value isn't just making things go fast. It's stopping the waste on things that don't matter.
Okay, so that sets the stage. Strategy is locked in. But you know how big organizations are. Execution can be chaotic. A bit of a Wild West scenario, right? Every team with their own tools, their own processes. How does the PMO stop that?
That is the next big piece of the puzzle. It's the second critical function, standardized delivery frameworks. If you want outcomes you can predict, you need methods that are consistent. So the PMO sets the rhythm of work. They define the standards for planning, for documentation, governance, quality assurance, all of it.
And what's really key here, and our sources hammer this home, is that these aren't just one-size-fits-all rules. These frameworks have to cover everything from agile to hybrid models.
Right. They are not trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Think about it. You might have one team using Scrum for an app and another using a really strict waterfall approach for, say, an infrastructure rollout.
Two totally different worlds.
Totally different. But the PMO's framework makes sure that the governance, the risk checks, the quality of documentation,
Yeah.
all of that is consistent and measurable across both. It's a universal translator.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because when you standardize how you deliver, you suddenly unlock the ability to standardize how you measure. And that turns the PMO into a kind of intelligence unit, which is point 3.
Yes. The PMO is now deeply, deeply analytic. We call this data-driven visibility and reporting. And let me be clear, this is way past the old red, yellow, green status report. If your PMO is still doing that, they're already behind.
So what are they doing instead?
They're using dashboards, analytics, specific KPIs, but not just to report on what happened last week. They're actively using predictive insights to help leadership make smarter decisions. They're looking forward, not back.
Can you give us an example of that? What does a predictive insight actually look like?
A great one is resource forecasting. So instead of just reporting that a team is swamped right now, the PMO's models can look at the pipeline and see that, based on current trends, that same team is going to be completely saturated 6 weeks from now.
So they can predict the bottleneck before it happens.
Exactly. It lets leadership reallocate people or adjust timelines weeks before there's a crisis. That's not reporting. that's influencing strategy.
That kind of visibility must be absolutely essential because a big tech project, it's never just a tech project, is it? It touches every part of the business.
Yeah.
Which brings us perfectly to the fourth point, cross-functional collaboration. The PMO has to be that bridge between all these different departments that, don't always speak the same language.
So they connect everything. And the list is long. It's not just technology. They're linking tech with finance to manage the money, with HR for staffing, with operations for deployment, with procurement for contracts.
And the whole vendor ecosystem on top of that.
The whole thing. They're making sure that when a new cloud service gets bought, the tech team is happy, the finance team is happy, and the ops team knows when it's actually going to show up.
Yeah.
Without that central hub, it's just chaos.
And that collaboration is so critical for the next point, which loops right back to the money we were talking about. This is budget control and value realization. And again, this is so much deeper than just, approving a purchase order.
Oh, much, much deeper. The modern PMO is a financial optimizer. Yes, they monitor budgets, they optimize the burn rate. But the real game changer is their intense focus on making sure there's measurable value realization.
So tying it all the way back to the start.
All the way back.
Yeah.
They ask the question, did that new portal actually reduce support calls by the 15% we promised? Did that upgrade actually reduce latency by the target we set? They track the value after the project is done.
Okay, but let me push back on that for a second. If a PMO is so focused on short-term, measurable ROI, don't they risk killing off real innovation? The big, risky projects that might take years to pay off.
That's a fantastic question. It's a tension they absolutely have to manage. A truly strategic PMO knows that part of the portfolio has to be for those high-risk, innovative bets. So their framework is different for those. The metrics aren't immediate financial return. The metrics are things like validated hypotheses or successful prototypes.
I see. So the framework itself has to be flexible.
It has to be. If they demand immediate profit from everything, they become innovation blockers, not accelerators.
That nuance is so important. Okay, so we've got strategy, execution, data, collaboration, and financial optimization. That's a huge job. But what about the people? How does the PMO make the organization itself better over time?
And that leads to the final and maybe the most evolved role,
which is capability building and coaching.
This is a massive shift. The PMO is going from being a governance body to being an internal learning hub. Their job now includes actively lifting up the entire organization's ability to deliver.
So they're not just enforcers, they're teachers.
Exactly. They run coaching programs for project managers. They manage the knowledge bases so lessons from one project aren't lost. They are responsible for competency development, for making sure the whole organization just gets better and better at this stuff.
It's just so compelling when you put it all together. They're a planner, a controller, an analyst, a collaborator, and an educator all at once. When you see all 6 functions working together, that old paperwork label just seems ridiculous.
The impact is clear. If you're a business trying to do any kind of large-scale transformation, you need a PMO that does these 6 things. It's the engine that makes sure your tech spending is smart, coordinated, and actually delivers what the business needs.
So what does this all mean? It means that if your organization still sees the PMO as just the process police, you are leaving a massive strategic asset on the table. The function isn't defined by process anymore. It's defined by how fast it accelerates business value. Embracing these 6 roles isn't just a nice to have, it's a necessity.
And that leaves us with one final thought for you to chew on, which comes right out of the tensions in our source material. We said the modern PMO must be a learning hub, right?
Okay.
Focusing on long-term capability. That's patient investment. At the same time, it has to optimize budget burn and deliver immediate value. That demands speed and cost efficiency. So think about that duality. Which of those 2 roles, the internal educator building for the future or the immediate financial optimizer focused on today, do you think truly defines the most successful PMOs in a volatile world? Where does that perfect balance lie?